Welcome to our course about crane signaling. Since you work around cranes, it's important that you know who crane signalers are, what they do, and why they are important to the safety of your worksite. By the end of this course, you will be able to recognize the importance of crane signaling, identify the forces that signaled movements can exert on crane equipment and loads, know the methods by which crane operators and signalers communicate, identify resources to use to properly deliver signals, recognize communication barriers and limitations and how to compensate for them, know all official signals for stop work, and know what to do if crane communication is unclear. Several people share responsibility for safe crane operation. The person directing lifting operations is the person ultimately responsible for the crane's work. This person is usually a supervisor, but may be the crane operator or signal person in some situations. You may hear people refer to this person as the lift director. The crane operator is the person who manipulates the controls of the crane. The signal person guides crane movements using hand or voice signals. Only one person should give signals to a crane at a time. The exception is the emergency stop signal, which anyone on the site may give at any time. There are things below, above, and around the crane that its operator may not be able to see as clearly as the signal person can. Crane signalers help crane operators set loads with precision while avoiding obstructions like buildings and overhead power lines. It's important to note that if the crane's boom contacts a structure or load, the boom can be damaged. A qualified person must inspect the boom prior to any additional work. This can be a life and death situation. The operations that crane signalers direct, such as boom length and radius, can affect crane capacity. Crane signalers receive important training about these effects so that they make safe choices. The lift director, crane operator, and crane signaler all work together to make sure people and property are safe during crane operations. Operating a crane safely truly is a team effort. The team should avoid distractions, such as chatting with other workers, and focus on the crane, load, and surroundings. Who is responsible for making sure that a crane does not contact obstructions during its operation? The movements that signalers guide impact both the crane and the load. Crane capacity is influenced by the position, boom length, and radius. The boom and radius must be as short as possible to lift the maximum weight. Changing the crane position and extending the boom length or radius will decrease the capacity of the crane. For this reason, cranes are seldom able to lift their maximum capacity. Moving a load increases the force and burden on a crane. Dynamic loading is how we describe the effect the speed and weight of a load has on the time it takes to stop it. Heavy loads moving quickly take more time to stop than light loads that are moving slowly. The heavier or faster the load, the more time signalers need to give operators to bring the load to a stop. In other words, signalers must give advance notice so that operators may stop loads gradually and safely. If two loads are moving in the same way and at the same speed, which one will take longer to stop? Boom deflection simply means that as you apply lifting forces on a load, the boom bends down slightly. So signal people need to account for the fact that the load won't leave the ground as soon as the crane starts to lift. The rigging must become pulled tight, and the boom must deflect completely before the load leaves the ground. When lowering the load, the signaler must ensure that the load is completely settled and there is no remaining boom deflection before it's safe to detach the load. Loads that are stuck can cause several problems for crane operations. Trying to lift loads to release them can strain the crane. If they release quickly, the load can jump or move suddenly. These situations can cause serious damage or tipovers. For these reasons, it's important that signalers let crane operators know when they are trying to lift a stuck load so that the operator knows what to expect. Some cranes are unable to perform boom and hoist functions at the same time smoothly or safely. The signaler and operator must meet prior to lifts to talk about equipment limitations and plan accordingly. Two blocking is a term that describes a crane accident that occurs when the headache ball or hook block contacts the boom tip. Two blocking accidents can be deadly and are most common on telescopic boom cranes. Signalers and operators should be aware of this issue, especially when telescoping the boom. Side load occurs when the center of gravity of a load is not directly under the crane hoist. Crane booms are only designed for a side load of 2 or 3%. Exceeding this amount can stress the boom to the point of collapse. Signalers must make sure that cranes lift loads straight up. They should never signal the crane operator to do anything with the crane that would cause a side load. Because of boom deflection, operators and signalers should anticipate that the boom will do what when they begin applying lifting forces on a load. Crane signalers communicate with crane operators using clear and constant standardized hand signals and voice commands. Regardless of the communication method, it's vital that everyone meets prior to the work beginning. At the meeting, everyone must agree upon and understand the work plan, hazards, equipment capabilities and limitations, roles, and signals and commands. Hand signals only work with adequate visibility. This means that the signaler must be positioned where the operator can see him or her. Usually, this means that the signaler is on the same side of the boom as the operator and within easy eyesight. The signaler and operator must also consider visibility factors, like weather and light, to make sure they can see each other. It is important that signal persons deliver standardized signals. There is a chart that the signaler will use to ensure accurate signals. The lift director, crane operator, and crane signaler may take time during the pre-work meeting to rehearse and ensure clear understanding of signals. Communication is key to safe crane operations. It is vital that anytime the operator cannot see or understand the signaler, work stops immediately. Voice signals are another method by which a signaler delivers commands to a crane operator. They are particularly useful for tower and mobile cranes. Before work begins, the team must test the voice system they will use to make sure it is clear, reliable, and has a dedicated channel to avoid interference with communications or inadvertently detonating remote explosives. The operator must be able to receive and respond to voice commands without using his or her hands. The signaler must speak clearly, slowly, and calmly, and should deliberately use specific wording in a specific order, which we will discuss momentarily. The signaler should give directions such as right and left from the operator's perspective. Voice signals begin with an identifier when there is more than one crane. For example, a signaler may preface a command with the operator's name, a crane number, or the location, such as North Crane. Then the signaler must deliver a complete voice command in a standard order. The command begins with the function and direction, such as load up, swing right, or boom down. This is followed by the distance and/or speed, such as swing right 10 meters, 5 meters, 4, 3, 2, 1. The voice command concludes with the function stop. For example, load stop or boom stop. Which of the following is an appropriate voice signal for a job with a single crane? Prior to signaling crane operations, all signal persons should be tested by a designated person and demonstrate their qualifications. They must have a basic understanding of crane operations and limitations, including how signal commands can impact equipment capacity and load swing. They must also know standard hand and voice signals, depending on which method they will use to issue commands. Where do you think you can find hand signal charts? It's okay if you aren't sure. We'll explain the answer. Select each factor to find out how it may impact communication regarding crane activities. The forecast calls for light rain on the day crane work is scheduled to begin. When should the lift director, crane signaler, and crane operator discuss how the weather may impact work or communications? Everyone on a job site has the responsibility and authority to stop work if they feel that unsafe conditions are present or if they do not understand directions. This is especially important for crane operations because of the degree of danger involved to people and property when things go wrong. The signal for an emergency stop is to extend both arms horizontally with palms down. Then swing the arms back and forth. The voice and hand signals for stops and emergency stops should be part of the pre-work briefing. Communication between the crane operator and the signal person is continuous during all crane movements. Any interruption should cause the operator to stop all crane movements. Movement may only resume when the signaler is able to give a proper signal that the operator understands. If the operator has any concerns regarding the requested movement or needs to communicate with the signal person, he or she should stop all crane movement until the issue is resolved. A crane operator briefly loses sight of the hand signaler, but feels confident about what to do next. Should the operator stop work? You should now be able to recognize the importance of crane signaling, identify the forces that signaled movements can exert on crane equipment and loads, know the methods by which crane operators and signalers communicate, identify resources to use to properly deliver signals, recognize communication barriers and limitations and how to compensate for them, know all official signals for stop work, and know what to do if crane communication is unclear.